This is the Player to Pro podcast where every pitch of every game matters and where players, parents, and coaches come together to win both on and off the field. Before we get started, I want to mention our new and exciting live hitting course opportunity for your teams. This is a fun and interactive remote learning program that teaches hitting fundamentals and new hitting drills that can be practiced at home. So visit baseballutility.com for more information. In this episode of Player to Pro, we have travel ball coach Adam Scott joining us from Chandler, Arizona. I always love recognizing the service of our military, and right now Adam is a logistics specialist for the United States Navy Reserves, and he's served a total of 15 years and has been on 2 tours aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln. So Adam, thank you so much for your time, your service, your sacrifice to our great country. All right, so in this episode, we cover a ton of different topics like having a winning mentality and playing at the next level. We talk about girls and women in baseball in today's day and age, and a ton of other topics as well. So without further delay, here's my conversation with the head coach of the Thunder out of Chandler, Arizona, Adam Scott.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's just talk some baseball, man. What are some things that have been going on with the team, or anything that comes to mind that you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned, learning along the lines or over the years, I've been coaching our Thunder program in some capacity for 8 or 9 years now. Ever since Dylan was, 3.5. And I think when I first took over the team, I had a mentality of win, and they were like 5.5, 6, right? We just wanted to see them win because I'm just competitive in nature, right? That's the first thing I wanted to do. But as each season progressed, it's like obviously you learn from your mistakes. You pick up things from other coaches too, and people that have been in the game for a long time. And so now I'm more of a empathetic. Right. So I find out what motivates each individual player and I coach to that. But I also have an overall big umbrella picture of where we want to go as a team. So make sure they're having fun, because at the end of the day, they're 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds that they should be having fun playing. And if they're not, they probably shouldn't be playing. But at the same time, just still getting to that highest level, playing the highest competition, playing up to their competition, because you do play up to the competition. If you're playing a team that's not at your same level, you're going to play down. If you're playing them, if you're playing up, you're going to play up. Like, it's always good to set high expectations to make sure you're getting to the next level. And that's something that we always try to focus on too, is just what can we do to make sure we're looking ahead, because these kids are getting ready to go into high school in another year and a half. And I am going to be turning over the ropes to somebody else, and they're going to be out of my hands. So what can I do in that meantime, right? Like, what can I do to get them there, or give them the best opportunity to continue playing?
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're doing a great job with that, man. Because a good point that you made is that you have to be a little bit more empathetic, right? These kids, especially at such a young age, they're young kids, but they got big emotions, right? They really care. They want to impress you, their coach, or like your sons. They want to, do right by you. But so they have big emotions, and I know that's good. You recognize that. But like for me, I always looked up. Like you said, you got to play up, right, as well. Like you want to play with the teams that are better as well. That's how you get better. I mean, that's how I felt like I did. My older brother Will is 2 years older than me. And the coaches always let me practice with them and let me play in their scrimmage games. And I always joke around that was my first call up, was playing with my older brother. But I always looked up to those guys, like the guys 2 years ahead of me. I knew, like, George Pappas, Lou Farinella, all these they're like big leaguers to me, you know. Like
Yeah.
I knew them better than I knew big leaguers. I felt like, yeah,
Yeah, and it's funny when you say their emotions. I mean, they care so much, and they want to, like you said, they want to impress.
yeah,
Um, and sometimes they lose sight. Like I tell Dylan all the time, like you could have two guys that go 0 for 3 and strike out 3 times, but if your attitude's crap and this other kid's got a fantastic attitude and he's still on the fence cheering on his teammates, the coaches aren't going to remember, or the coaches are going to remember one of those more than the other ones. And I guarantee you they'll still pick up that kid that had the great attitude versus
that's
the other
right.
one. Just so little things like that. We want them to care, but we don't want them to care so much where they lose sight of the team aspect of the big picture of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I joke around a lot. That's how I snuck through 11 years of major leagues. I just trying to have that good attitude. You know, there was a really good friend of mine. Um, he was the chaplain actually for the Oakland A's, and he would go between uh, the major leagues and AAA, and he saw me come down to AAA one time, and I had the smile on my face, and I was just excited that I still got to play competitive baseball, you know. And he addressed that in front of the whole team. Like a couple years later, like back in like I had took like a 3-year break from the A's and then went back in 2017. And at spring training, he told the whole entire team that it was pretty embarrassing.
That's all.
I was kind of like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's cool at the same time, though.
it was cool. It was really cool though. It was really a lot of respect, you know. But because I had a good attitude, you know, I was kind of found a spot to play, you know.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, as far as the travel ball scene, I mean, it's flooded. I'll be honest. There's a lot of teams that are out there of many different age groups, all the way from, I guess they got them starting travel ball at 8U now, maybe even some 7U depending on what state you're in, and it's flooded with so many teams. That's one of the things that I've tried to do different is not have a huge organization where we have teams all the way up and down the lineup where it's like I got one team. I can focus on the one team. There's less politics, right? With parent expectations, because that's a big deal in the world that we're in. And they pay good money to have their player play, and they want to see them play in certain spots. But when you're in a big organization like that, it's not going to work. Like as they get older, that's going to your expectations need to lower less and less on that. But when they're younger, it's like parents are paying, upwards of $200 to $300 a month for their kid to play. And, they may not play where they want them to play. And it just creates a lot of, bad expectation, I guess you could say. So having the one team for us has been huge and allows me to focus on, all the individual players that I do have that are committed to us. Which helps long term too, I think, because the players don't get lost in the shuffle of everything.
And that's what you don't want to happen, man.
Nah.
And just to have, and it's all part of the team chemistry too, you know, not just for winning, like you said, but their development, like player development wise, you buy into them more, right? You're their,
Right.
like, they're your kids, right?
Yeah.
Like,
They're legit my second family. Like I tell Dylan all the time, like I treat everybody like they're my own kid, and
yeah,
he'll probably argue that a little bit because I get on him a little bit, but that's just because it's a father-son thing. But yeah, I mean, we've had kids that have been with me since they were, super little. Like Jose, our little leadoff hitter, he's been with me since he was 2.5, 3 years old. And he's playing up a year and a half with kids that are a year and a half older than him. So it's a lot of fun watching him continue to be a stud and still go up against those older kids. So
yeah. I mean, I think back to the little league coaches that I know you've been with them for a long time now, but I still remember, when I was 8 years old, I remember my coaches, right? I remember their names. I remember like their positive attitude. Ever since, I can't imagine having like them grow with me. I mean, that's pretty special to have that.
yeah. Yeah. And Angie, Jose, speaking of, growing with you, Angie is Jose's older sister. And she played for me up until about a year and a half ago.
Oh, yeah.
And her and Shelby, who plays for me now, have both competed in the Baseball for All National Baseball Tournament on the East Coast over in Rockford, Illinois. So Shelby and Angie won nationals last year, and it's like, I see Angie, and I've had her since she was 5, and it's like my daughter, going and winning nationals, and I wasn't able to be there, and I'm getting all choked up here trying to keep up and follow games and everything, and seeing her do what she's doing on a higher level is unreal. I mean, no doubt in my mind, she'd probably go out right now and make her starting high school team. Like when she gets there, I think she just turned 14 in May.
Is she going to play for a high school team?
I think she's going into her freshman year, and we've talked about softball. She just doesn't like it. Doesn't like it at all. But I guarantee if she tries out for a high school squad, she would make it in a heartbeat. Like she's a stud, and so is Shelby. Shelby's going into 8th grade this coming fall. She's a year behind Angie. But Shelby, if she wanted to and tries out, she would make it too. Like they're just as good as any of the boys out there that we've seen.
Yeah. And what position do they primarily play?
So Angie, for me, Angie played first, third, and pitched. She's a pitcher. Shelby is a lefty, and she's a switch hitter. So Shelby plays first for us.
Oh, nice. They could pick it then.
Oh yeah, Shelby does a wall over there for sure.
Man, what a great opportunity too. That's fantastic. That's cool. I know like there's a lot of women coaching in the major leagues now. I mean, I'm not gonna say a lot, but I know there's a few. I know the San Francisco Giants. I know that's I saw another one, like a assistant hitting coach. Like
yeah, I saw that too. That was a big headline. It was, and that's huge for, I mean, big strides all the way across the board. So I love everything about it. Yeah. And it teaches the boys at this age, the younger age, it teaches the boys life lessons that they're going to be able to take with them forever. Not only about respect, but how to treat women and et cetera. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, man. Well, do you have any specific questions that you wanted to cover?
Yeah. I was talking to Dylan a little bit, yesterday and this morning, and we wrote a few things down that I'd like to bring up to you, because I know we're probably definitely not the only ones that are curious about a few different topics. So, the big one for Dylan, and a few others, but Dylan primarily is balance at the plate. So he's in the plate. Obviously, we try to not get him to overthink. We want him to simplify things when they're in the box. So practice, we learn, we teach, we coach. Once they get in the box, smile and hit the ball hard. Like that's, we try to clear their mind of everything else. Just hit the ball hard, square it up, think middle. But for him, it's balance. So fastballs, he's on time with. Anything slow or off speed, he's all over the place. So for me, I was curious, how do you recognize those? How do you stay balanced in the box when you're seeing multiple pitches like that? What's the approach there?
My goodness, that's a great question, the balance and hitting the off-speed pitch. First of all, you have to have that approach of what you're looking for in the first place, right? If you're looking fastball, I mean, that's pretty fundamental, right? If you're looking fastball and the off-speed comes and you swing at it with less than 2 strikes, it's going to be an off-balance swing, right? Because you're not looking for it. You got to be hunting fastball. And if you see the pop, the little hump in the curveball go up, okay, then you stay locked in and balanced. But more often than not, and another thing is, you got to make sure that you're in time with the pitch too, because a lot of kids will either start too early or too late. But you have to understand, like, you have to keep the same rhythm and timing at the plate, because if it's different every time, that's just another dynamic that's going to throw off your balance. So it's so important, and as fundamental as it sounds, it's really picking your pitch and making sure that you're staying balanced in that way, with the rhythm and timing, making sure you start on time.
No, I like it. Yeah. What about the routine? We talked to all our kids about, before games, having a routine, before especially practices, having a specific practice routine, depending on what you want to work on. But as far as pre-game weekend routine, is there anything that you would say is more important than the other, or is it just more about having one?
Man, routine. I wish I had a better routine when I was Dylan's age. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't really have a set like disciplined routine until I went to college. To be honest with you, so I was about 5 years older than Dylan, right? So to be thinking about routine right now when you're 13 years old, you're ahead of the game. I feel like, and I know the game is adapted and it's adjusted. It's a lot more advanced than it was, but um, I started that routine, and a lot of it is more the mental side of the game, like the mental thought process before the game. Like, I mean, you do things like listen to the same song before you go out onto the field. A song that's positive, or a song that gets you going the right way. But then also, like, taking time when I'm at the field. I went down the left field line at Western Michigan when I played in college, and I laid on my back, put my hat over my eyes, and did my mental visualization before every single game. Um, but also, like, it starts off the field too. I mean, that's and then, like, you want to think about before, like, what your workout routine is, what you're eating. But obviously in the college you're super structured too. But I mean, yeah, so off field, on field, and then on field, I mean, you think about your on deck routine as well. That's huge as well. I mean, you take about the same amount of swings every time you stand on deck, and you go through the same routine.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I
what
think
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what are some of the routines that these 13-year-olds are doing right now?
Right now, it's more of a team thing. So I know we're going to start getting into individual routines based on who's starting that day, right? What the lineup looks like, who we're playing, what time of the day we're playing, and whether we're playing at 8 o'clock in the morning versus 6 o'clock at night, because those routines may look differently a little bit too.
Right.
But right now, over the past 6 months, we've really tried to focus on making sure when everybody shows up prior to the game, we're doing everything together. Now, whether that's running, then stretching, then calisthenics, then hitting the heavy balls, making sure we get some swings in. They're long toss and they're getting a good amount of throws in. This past year, we had a few injuries too. So we had a growth plate issue for one of our players. We had Little League elbow and another one, and then Dylan had Osgood slaughters in his right knee.
Really?
So right now, I mean, this coming fall, the focus is really going to be on strength and conditioning for that good month and a half prior to anything even starting during the season, along with our hitting, right? But so that's where they're at now, is trying to make sure every practice for the first half hour to an hour, it's the same. Like, we're going to do the same thing, whether it's calisthenics, stretching, running. We go infield, outfield. We do our, situational stuff. And then we'll just hit in the cages. We don't usually hit out at the fields because it takes too long to shag all the balls. I'd rather get more rips in the cages. But so that's where they're at now as far as our routine goes.
That's fantastic. That's so much more advanced than where I was when I was 13. Like, 13 was like, just show up and play,
Yeah.
Imagine, like, they're learning this earlier, and how much, I mean, I think about injury prevention, and taking care of your bodies. And I mean, in order to, like, go through that regimen routine and do it throughout the summer, and it sounds like you guys are playing in the fall as well, but, like, you have to make sure you're eating good and sleeping good as well, man. It's like you talk about the strength and conditioning, but man,
That's huge. And their bodies are changing. Like, they're in that weird age right now where, like, they're all just hitting growth spurts, growing ridiculously fast. And so that's a whole other obstacle that I got to try to get in my mindset too, is that strength and conditioning. And I probably should have been doing it a year earlier, to be honest. But to see the injuries happen firsthand, especially with my own kid, it's been eye-opening. So it's good to add it in there, though.
yeah, no, that's so important. That's good stuff, man. Yeah, and I know as I went on, like, from college, every year my routine became more and more structured, and, like, to a T. And by the time I was done playing, it was like I knew I can do it with my eyes closed. It was almost like clockwork. You show up and you have, like, you almost break it up into, like, 15 minutes, 15-minute segments. What are you going to eat for 15 minutes, or you're going to go warm up for 15 minutes, and then you're going to work out for 30 minutes, right? And then you just break it up in 15-minute segments. and it was like clockwork every day. But again, like the night games compared to the day games were different. You know, making sure that you got your rest the night before. After an extra inning game, you know, and you come back, you got to sleep fast and show up about 9 o'clock in the morning. But
How was the adjustment for you after you stopped playing, going from that, you know, that routine to not?
so I'm driving my wife nuts right now, I think, because she's like, because I have all these alarms going off because I'm working hard with baseball utility, doing this
Yeah.
stuff, and trying to figure out what I want to do, where I fit, especially because I have a lot of time now. Because I feel like it was going to be an easy transition going
Right.
from playing. I was going to go coach with the A's and the AZL right here at home, but they got shut down, and now I'm really hustling and learning a ton with baseball utility. But I'm structured. I try to do that. Like I do like half-hour increments about what I want to accomplish,
Yeah.
and I have to set alarms to make sure that I'm at dinner on time. Like, so it's, yeah, but she's like, oh my gosh, but I'm super reg, like I'm pretty strict with schedule. But
Hey, everybody's got their own OCD tendencies. It's all right.
I don't want
Trust
to miss a
me.
minute, you know?
Trust me. I got mine. It's like I'm with communication, like, because I have 12 families I have to communicate with.
Right.
And so I tend to over communicate. And so I hit it with all different avenues, whether it's a Shutterfly account, whether it's Facebook, whether it's text messages, whether it's whatever it is. Like, I'm sure parents get tired of it sometimes, but my mind's like, I'd rather over communicate than you
Right.
miss something.
Oh
Right?
my goodness, it's when you miscommunicate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it is what it is. Everybody's got their quirks, but I'll take it. I take the good with the bad.
Like I got to come work out with your team that won back in January, and you guys are super structured, and like, man, what an opportunity! Just like your coaches.
Yeah, man, they had a blast too. They really enjoyed it, and I think it, from a coach that's with them every single week throughout the season, having you come out and work with them on your 4 core values and having a different voice in their ears is huge. You know, it's just like my son. Like I'll say something, it'll go in one ear and out the others, but another coach says it, and he's like listening, and he's paying attention. He's like, "Yeah, I got it," and I'm just like, "Dude."
I see.
And so it's nice to have you come out and say some of the and introduce new things, and also reiterate some of the things that we've been teaching them. And it's like, see, we're not, like, we know what we're talking about a little bit,
100%.
you know, and they loved all the different drills that you brought out too.
Because it's the fundamentals, man. Like really, like it truly is. It's like you gotta just really hit hard on the fundamentals, man. It's the simple things. But yeah, I did a couple of camps, you know, in San Diego and Utah, a little bit here in Arizona, and it happened more often than I was hoping. But a dad would be standing right by the cage, watching his son. I say something simple, you know, hey, your hands are drifting a little bit, you know. And the kid goes, oh, and he makes the adjustment, hits a bullet up the middle, and his dad goes, I've been telling you that for 3 years. And his dad turns around to his dad. This happened more than once. He turns around to his dad. He goes, yeah, but Adam played in the MLB though. Like, oh no. Like, guys, the fundamentals. Listen to your parents. You know, like they know what they're talking about.
It's all between their ears, man.
It's
all mental.
It's that, but getting that validation though from somebody else is important as well, man. But
yeah, it's huge, and we look forward to having you back out this fall whenever things calm down a little bit. I know, you know, who knows what's going to happen from one day to week to month to the next, you know, but you know, hopefully everything calms down and we can get you back out once or twice a month in the fall to continue to work with them and build off what we already got. So
yeah, I would love to do that. I really enjoyed working with your team. A great group of kids, and I liked how involved the parents were too. I know there was a couple dads, like 3 or 4, I felt like were there. And
yeah, I mean, though, anytime even though they don't do it on a regular basis, if I were to ask them to jump on the practice field and help run a station or help do anything, like, they do it in a heartbeat. Like we have so much support, and that's one of the best things that I like. Is when we bring players on board, which isn't too often, but when we bring new players on board, you're not just bringing on board talent, right? It's a whole package that you gotta. I mean, the parents got to be a good fit. The kids got to be a good fit.
Right.
He's got to be a good fit with the team and where we're at and what our level is, but also where our biggest needs are as a team too. And then, hey, how do the parents get along? How do the kid get along with our other kids? How does
Oh,
what I mean? It's a huge package, and it's not just it's not a business. I don't run it as a business, and I think that's what helps because we're a family. I mean, we spend more time with each other at the baseball fields than a lot of people do at home.
right, man. But
You know what
that
I mean?
goes a long way. That's the way we grew up.
Right.
Like we
So
had
it's
the
your
same.
second family.
Yeah, like I said, I remember the coaches, but like every dad would take turns being the coach, but we would play with the same players,
Yeah.
or at least they would go to different teams, but it would still be in the same house league.
Right.
You miss that. That's so important. And
And I hope they remember it. I believe they will, but I hope they remember it as as they get older and they go on to do whatever it is they do outside of baseball. Some of them could very well do baseball. Some of them are so smart from a
yeah,
academic standpoint they could go do probably whatever they wanted.
right.
So I just hope that we lay the foundation and then they just with
Oh,
them and their parents they run with it.
they'll remember. I mean, that's what makes it that culture, right? That's what they fight for in the big leagues, man. That's
Yeah.
why you see these teams winning because they've created a culture. That's what they talk about all the time. Create that culture, and it's so important no matter what level.
Yeah, for sure. So if speaking of like trying to get them to that next level, then one of the questions I had for you was, as these kids, mine especially, but anybody really, I mean, as they're getting ready to move into high school, what are some important parts, or what do you think is what their focus should be on as they try to prepare for that next level, or what the expectation is, especially for the parents?
Especially for the parents.
Yeah, I guess for them and the parents, really, because I mean, a lot of parents don't know what to expect from high school. I
You
mean,
know,
their son could be playing travel ball for 5 years and then get
right.
to high school, and it's a different ballgame.
It's a different, yeah, it is. There's no question. Um, like I said before, like the young kids, I would always make sure you look up to that. If you're a freshman, look up to your sophomores. Heck, look up to the varsity team, unless you play on it. Unless you're like very fortunate to play on the varsity team as a freshman. But look up to those guys. A lot of respect to those guys. But for me, going into my freshman year of high school, I was more advanced than I thought, right? Because we played like 80 to 100 games a year. It was unheard of. But I played in a league my dad found. We played that many games, but going in, I had such respect for the game and for the other kids around me. It's like I thought to myself, I'm not sure if I'm going to make this team. Like I honestly thought, like I got to bust my tail to make this team. And I think if you have that mentality, like that respect for the game,
Yeah,
you're gonna be just fine. But it's exciting. That's an exciting time. High school baseball like was really because the rivalries there in high school. My goal was always to win state. That was my first goal was to have that team goal to win state, and then also for a personal goal, I wanted to be an all-state player.
yeah,
And I think that's important to set those goals and to take. They have like a lot of school pride. And we did. Our school at Maine South High School in Park Ridge, Illinois. We had some like really good like the football team was great, but we had great leaders. I felt like great coaches, like good communication, and we always just go out. But the key is though, which might be good for your players, is that I played with Dan Carnance, I played with Dominic Lupo, James Bello, all these Anthony Scatino, Joe Sergo, coming up since I was whatever 8 years old, all the way until we went to high school. We played together, and we had such team chemistry. And I mean, and a lot of guys went on to play Division I baseball, like Craig Murray and Mark Ori. Like it was just such a good. It was such a good experience for me going into high
yeah,
school. It's an exciting time. The level of competition is good, but also I'm sure there's more resources for you, and just tap into your resources. But that's what I get pumped thinking about
Yeah.
my heyday,
Well, and I think that's one of the biggest differences from that story you just told about you coming up and playing with all those guys and playing from a younger age all the way through high school, is that, down here in the Valley where you have literally hundreds of teams from 9U to 14U before they get into high school. And, if somebody doesn't like the way that particular coach is running the team or program, they'll go start their own team. Right. And then that recruitment process starts. So then they try to get players to come over for that team.
Yeah,
so then you have all these teams that are going to be playing the high school together. They're playing on 10 different teams. And so and on my squad, we probably have kids that are going to go to 5 or 6 different high schools because we're just a Chandler-based team. We're not what we call it nowadays. You have what you call a feeder team. So the feeder team essentially is a 13, 14U, 2 different teams that if you're going to be going to, let's say, Basha High School, you're gonna want to get on their feeder team, their travel ball team for 13U. And essentially what the path is, you make the 13U team, hopefully that team stays together for 14U, and that 14U then tries out for the high school because at that point the coaches know you because you're practicing, at that high school's facilities, etc. But then the politics start to play a role because you want those teams to be good, but you're going to need outside players that might not be boundaried for Basha High School on that team.
Right.
So now you have the feeder teams not going to that particular high school. So there's a lot of politics involved, and hence going back to my original point, I got one team and I focus on my 12 players, and I don't worry about anything else.
Because it's almost from what I'm hearing, it's almost like a broken promise. That they're going to stick with their feeder teams, but no, you know what? We're going to go over here outside, right? That's what they're doing.
But yeah,
together.
There's pros. Trust me, there's pros to it. There's people that are for it. Yeah. There's people that are against it. There's people that love it. I guess that's with everything, though. You're never going to make everybody happy. And so,
right, man, it really gets complicated. It gets more.
It does. And you see a lot of kids after a 14U season, if they're not good enough to make their high school team, because at some point you're not going to be good enough to play at that next level, right?
Oh, yeah.
And after that 14U season, if they don't make their high school team, what do? You want kids to keep playing ball.
I know, man. I feel like that's a huge, that's part of baseball utility too. This is a big research project that I'm doing. I'm trying to learn what's out there, what needs the most help. And that is what breaks my heart, man. Because I don't know if it's an accurate number or not, but they say 70% of kids stop playing baseball after about 12 or 13 years old, right? Trends say, I talked to, USA Baseball, and they said that the trends are going up. The youth players are playing more. But I think, what age? And I think it's that 12, 13, 14-year-old that I'm really passionate, that age group that I'm passionate about, man. Because if there's something, there's got to be something. Because we're not, I'll say this again, I said this 100 times, but we're not just developing baseball players, we're developing baseball fans, right? We want them to be a fan of the game for their kids, because it is, man. I love the game. And I have a son and a daughter. My daughter doesn't really like it too much, but my son is all about it. It's man, it's pretty cool. And it's just keep it going. I just have a ton of respect for it. That's all.
Yeah. And I think I think, like you said, there's a huge market for it. I think there are a lot of kids that play, anywhere from 14 to 18U, but I think there's a significant drop off for sure.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a niche for that group. How you market it, how you tap into it and develop it. Like you said, it's a research.
Well, then you and I are going to get together and we're going to do this.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Man, I'm
definitely down. I know there's a lot of kids, man. There's a ton of kids that are, regardless of what their circumstances, they could get burned out too. You know, nowadays with starting at 8U playing
Right.
travel ball, you never know. I mean,
Yeah.
after 5 years, the kid could decide that I'm not playing baseball no more. And what are you going to do? Force them? Like, you can't. So, you know, at some point, the parents got to kind of let go of a little bit too. And
Yeah.
who
It's
knows?
got to be in the kid too, because I mean, both my brothers, all three of us played, but like one of my brothers stopped playing freshman year, the other one stopped playing going into a senior year, and then everybody's like, "How come you? I thought your brothers would play longer." It's just they didn't have it. They just didn't. They got
Yeah.
burnt out, or they just didn't see like they were going anywhere with it. But man, it's a fun game to play for me. But I think there's a way to modify it in a sense, like we talked about. But anyway, I want to find a way to make it enjoyable. Give some kids some opportunity. But,
Yeah, for sure. I definitely could be a part of something we could get together on and do a collab on and try to figure something out.
yeah, man, it'd be fun.
Let me see. Oh, that one of Dylan's.
Yeah,
So again, going back to his approach at the plate, he wants to know what's the easiest way to recognize the pitch, and that's kind of a vague question, but those are his exact words. So I figured I'd just ask it like that, and you could take it however you want.
yeah. You know what? Like that's a great question for a 13-year-old to ask. But man, so I was playing catch with my son yesterday. My son's only 4 years old, right? And I'm throwing him high fly balls with a tennis ball, and it does all right. He catches half of them or whatnot. But the last one yesterday, I said, Adrian, Game 7, World Series right here. And I threw it higher than I had, and he caught it. Like, he was so concentrated and so determined to catch it, right? And he caught it, and we celebrated all the way home. He went home and told mom. He's like, Game 7 World Series, But the point I'm going to make is to recognize a pitch. You have to be determined to do it. You have to be concentrated, and you have to want it. You talk about how you used to be about winning, right? And how you've kind of had more empathy now. But honestly, to recognize a pitch, you have the mentality. You have to have the mentality that you want to win the pitch. There's no other way to do it. I mean, you could say I can give you the more technical answer, right? I can tell you it's a lot of mental preparation. It's what you do when you're in the hole, and when you're on deck, and then your routine that you have in the box, and then you have to focus on the pitcher's ear, or the bill of the cap. Focus on something like that. It'll help you recognize the pitch. I can get technical like that, but to be honest, for Dylan, you have to want to win the pitch, and you will recognize it. And that's bottom line. And that's what's going to separate you from good to great.
Nice, love it.
Yeah,
Love everything about it. And I'm trust me, he wasn't doing his little sleepover thing tonight. He'd be right here, and he'd be like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah,
So he's definitely gonna be watching this back here for sure.
He knew exactly what he was doing, getting out of this conversation tonight. Yeah,
I think he had a little hidden agenda in there, maybe.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing. No, look forward to talking with him too sometime. But yeah, hopefully he gets to watch this, and hopefully a lot of people get to watch it. I feel like you make a lot of valid points, and it's awesome to see your passion and respect for the game.
I appreciate it. It means a lot. It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's my hobby. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and would probably walk through a wall for any of these kids, because, like I said, they're my kids. Same with a lot of coaches out here. There's a lot of great coaches in the Valley,
Yeah.
and so they're super passionate, and I love doing what I do, man. So it's been a lot of fun being able to share that with you, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that once everything calms down with this COVID and this pandemic, and we'll take that on to the fall season and see where it goes.
100%, man. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I know this is going to help a ton of families out there. It's just great to hear, man. Like you said, there are a ton of great coaches out there, great parents, and I think it just validates them. I think that's a main reason why I like to do this, connect with coaches like yourself to validate to other coaches that they're doing it right, and that that there is that they do make a big impact on their players.
For sure. And I think parents need to understand too that not every situation, not every team's for them. Like, it's not always the right fit, right? And that's okay. Like, it's absolutely okay for you to leave one team and go to another team and it not be, the grass isn't always greener, right?
100%.
And that's okay, as long as you make the best decision for your kid at that particular time. It's not a wrong decision. It's just maybe that decision didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. So parents, do what you feel is in the best interest of your kid. Have respect for everybody. Don't lose friendships over it. It's not worth it. It's really not. At the end of the day, it's youth baseball, right? It's youth sports. Like, it's not worth losing friendships over. And so do whatever you feel is in the best interest, and hopefully it works out for the best.
And to be honest with you, from my personal opinion in my baseball journey, it was when I stuck with it, like whether it was with a team or I persisted, I stayed where I was, I held my ground. It was like, it was right around the corner, there was success. There's a lot of crummy times that I went through in this game, a lot of heartache, a lot of failure, but I'm telling you, like, I didn't give in because I thought if I went somewhere else, I'd have a better opportunity, or I'd get more, or all these different dynamics that go into it. But I stayed where I was. I was grateful for what I had, the resources that were around me, and I made the most of it, found that silver lining, and I stuck to my guns, and more often than not, it benefited my whole entire career, my whole entire journey. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime there's a change, there's usually growth, right?
Right, yes.
I mean, it's okay. So embrace it. So
that's right, embrace
because it's going to happen. If you're not changing, if you're not doing something different, you're going to get passed up. So
yeah.
So
there's a saying going around the clubhouse, I think it was back in 2016. I was playing for the Padres. We were pretty bad. Like we were, it was a tough year, but the saying was embrace the suck, right?
Yeah.
Like, embrace it and just learn and grow. I love what you said, man. Grow. That's when you're growing the most. It's true. As hard as it is.
Absolutely. But see, and you got to look at it from this standpoint too. Back in 2016, when you were with the Padres, those sucky years allowed them to get to where they're at now, where they're probably going to be killing it because they got all this young talent coming up and a couple of big signings of Machado and Hosmer, right? Like,
oh my goodness, yeah.
So, management probably loves it, right? Because those sucky years, they were able to grow, and now they're going to be a contender.
Yeah, and that's a tough division too, man.
It is.
There's no pushovers in that division.
No, I think the only ones that may not have a chance are the Giants. They got a lot of stuff going on.
I know, it's tough too because they had their heyday, man. Was it 12 and 14?
Yeah, I hardly recognize anybody just because there's some folks sitting out because of COVID, but then there's just their whole lineup looks different to me.
Yeah, for sure. And then they got, Bruce Bochy's gone. They got Gabe Kapler there. There's some good leadership there. They have Kai Correa, the bench coach, the infield magician.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Good stuff, though, Adam. All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We'll be in touch. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
All right. Have a good one.